This is Canto 3, Chapter 1, which is entitled Questions by Vidura, Text 17. Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Gajahya Valyat Tirthapada Padani.
Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani.
Anvakramat Punya Chikrishayorvyam.
Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayurvyam.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani.
Gajayava Tirtha Pada Padani.
Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayorvyam.
Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayurvyam.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani.
Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani.
Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayorvyam.
Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayurvyam.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti. Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani. Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani. Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayurvyam.
Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayorvyam.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Sanirgata Kaurava Punya Labdo.
Gajavaya Tirtha Pada Padani.
Gajayava Tirtha Pada Padani.
Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayurvyam.
Anvakramat Punya Chikirshayorvyam.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti.
Adishtito Yani Sahasramurti. Anyone else? Saha
Saha
Hi Vidura.
Vidura.
Nirgataha
Nirgataha,
after having quit.
after having quit.
Kaurava,
Kaurava,
the Kuru dynasty.
the Kuru dynasty.
Punya,
Punya,
piety.
piety.
Labdaha,
Labdaha,
so achieved.
so achieved.
Gaja Ahavyat,
Gajahavayat,
from Hastinapur.
from Hastinapur.
Tirthapadaha,
Tirthapadaha,
of the Supreme Lord.
of the Supreme Lord.
Padani,
Padani,
pilgrimages.
pilgrimages.
Anvakramat,
Anvakramat,
took shelter.
took shelter.
Punya,
Punya,
piety.
piety.
Chikirshaya,
Chikirsaya,
desiring so.
desiring so.
Urvyam,
Uvyam,
of high grade.
of high grade.
Adishtitaha,
Adistityaha,
situated.
situated.
Yani,
Yani,
all those, Sahasra,
Sahasra,
thousands,
thousands,
Murtihi,
Murtihi,
forms.
forms.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Vichara.
Translation. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places, where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. Purport. Vidura was undoubtedly a highly elevated and pious soul, otherwise he would not have taken his birth in the Kaurava family. To have high parentage, to possess wealth, to be highly learned, and to have great personal beauty are all due to past pious acts. But such pious possessions are not sufficient for obtaining the grace of the Lord and being engaged in his transcendental loving service. Vidura considered himself less pious, and therefore he decided to travel to all the great places of pilgrimage in the world in order to achieve greater piety and advance nearer to the Lord. At that time, Lord Krishna was personally present in the world, and Vidura could have at once approached him directly. But he did not do so because he was not sufficiently freed from sin. One cannot be 100% devoted to the Lord unless and until he is completely free from all effects of sin. Vidura was conscious that by the association of the diplomatic Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, he had lost his piety and was therefore not fit to associate at once with the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, text 28, this is confirmed in the following verse. Yesham tvantam katham papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drida vrata. Persons who are sinful asuras like Kamsa and Jarasandha cannot think of Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. Only those who are pure devotees, those who follow the regulative principles of religious life as prescribed in the scriptures, are able to engage themselves in karma yoga and then jnana yoga, and thereafter by pure meditation can understand pure consciousness. When God consciousness is developed, one can take advantage of the association of pure devotees. Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana. One is able to associate with the Lord even during the existence of this life. Places of pilgrimages are meant for eradicating the sins of the pilgrims, and they are distributed all over the universe just to give facility to all concerned for attaining pure existence in God realization. One should not be satisfied, however, merely by visiting the places of pilgrimage and performing one's prescribed duties. He should be eager to meet the great souls who are already there, engaged in the service of the Lord. In each and every place of pilgrimage, the Lord is present in his various transcendental forms. These forms are called Archa Murtis, or forms of the Lord, which can be easily appreciated by the common man. The Lord is transcendental to our mundane senses. He cannot be seen with our present eyes, nor can he be heard with our present ears. To the degree that we have entered into the service of the Lord, or to the proportion to which our lives are freed from sins, we can perceive the Lord. But even though we are not free from sins, the Lord is kind enough to allow us the facility of seeing him in his Archa Murtis in the temple. The Lord is all-powerful, and therefore he is able to accept our service by presentation of his Archa form. No one, therefore, should foolishly think the Archa in the temple to be an idol. Such an Archa Murti is not an idol, but the Lord himself. And to the proportion to which one is freed from sins, he is able to know the significance of the Archa Murti. The guidance of a pure devotee is therefore always required. In the land of Bharatvarsha, There are many hundreds and thousands of places of pilgrimage distributed all over the country, and by traditional practice, the common man visits such holy places during all seasons of the year. Some of the archa representations of the Lord situated in different places of pilgrimage are mentioned herewith. The Lord is present at Mathura, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, as Adi Keshava. The Lord is present at Puri, Orissa, as Lord Jagannath, also known as Purushottama. He is present at Allahabad, Prayag, as Bindu Madhava. At Mandara Hill, he is present as Madhusudana. In the Anandaranya, he is known as Vasudev, Padmanabh, and Janardana. At Vishnu Kanchi, he is known as Vishnu, and at Mayapur, he is known as Hari. There are millions and billions of such archa forms of the Lord distributed all over the universe. All these achar murtis are summarized in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the following words. Sarvatra prakash chandra bhakti sukha dite jagatara adharma na shidharma stapite. The Lord has so distributed himself all over the universe just to give pleasure to the devotees, to give the common man facility to eradicate his sins, and to establish religious principles in the world. Gyanthimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinobandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, as for the blessings of the devotees, that we can say something in line with Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada. May our words be pleasing to Shri Radhe Shyam, and may all the devotees be benefited. Hare Krishna. Good morning. Nice to be with you, discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll just read the verse again. This is 3rd Canto, Chapter 1, which is entitled Questions by Vidura, Text 17. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimages, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. So just the context here. Earlier, Shonaka Rishi was eager to hear more about Vidura. He wanted to hear why was it that Vidura left the palace? What were Vidura's activities when he went on pilgrimage? And what are some of the topics that were discussed when Vidura met with Maitreya Rishi? So Shonaka Rishi earlier asked these questions, and Sutta Goswami begins to tell some of the story and some of the things that happened with Vidura. We know that Vidura, being a very wise advisor to Dhritarashtra, he was a well-wisher always to Dhritarashtra, and he always gave him very good advice. And he plainly told him at some point that he told Dhritarashtra, you need to turn away from your son, Duryodhana. Otherwise, this will bring so much ill fortune to the whole family. So he told him very plainly, very directly. And Duryodhana was there to hear that. So Duryodhana's response, he harshly insulted Vidura. Vidura was his uncle and his well-wisher. But he very harshly insulted Vidura. And that's very painful. I'll read that verse again. This is a couple of verses back. Because just so we get the context of where we are now. So this is Duryodhana speaking in text 15. He's speaking to his father Dhritarashtra about Vidura. Who asked him to come here, this son of a kept mistress? He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy against those on whose support he has grown up. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. So I wanted to look before we come to today's verse. I also wanted to look at Vidura's response to this, because I think it's very much worth meditating upon his response. In the next verse, when he heard these words, Vidura, the first thing that's mentioned, Marmasu Tadita, that his heart was deeply afflicted. So that was the first thing, that his heart was afflicted by hearing these words. Right? What's a worse pain in this world? When you're a true well-wisher of another person, you have the best intentions, but that person misunderstands and actually thinks you're the opposite. That's a great pain, right? You're actually a well-wisher. You actually want what's best for the person. But you're not only misunderstood, but insulted by that person. And not only insulted by that person, but accused. And not only accused, but rejected, thrown out. So the first thing when Vidura hears this is described, there is an affliction of pain in the heart. But then another part of this verse in text 16, Mayam, it says, that he could also see that this is the power of Maya acting. This is the Lord's external energy that's acting. So he felt some pain from those words, but he also could see that Duryodhana was under the influence of the material energy. Therefore, he could not help it. This is important for us because, when somebody hurts us or acts with anger towards us or insults us, whatever it may be a first reaction is the pain of it, but then to also see that this is the power of Maya. This can help us forgive people. This can help us tolerate people when we understand that some people are actually under the influence. There's a very strong power. It says in the verse that he could see that the Maya is supreme in this world. He could see that, and therefore he did not. Therefore, what else does he experience when he heard? It says Gatavyata, that he didn't feel sorry being thrown out. Vidura didn't feel sorry that he was being tossed away, but rather he saw it as a good opportunity to purify himself, to go on pilgrimage, to seek association of pure souls, and to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. So he saw an opportunity. And he began to see it all in the same moment. He also saw it as the grace of Duryodhana, Prabhupada says in the purport. The grace of Duryodhana. Unbeknownst to Duryodhana. Sometimes people may be harsh with us. They may not even know it, but they're giving us an opportunity by that. If we don't react with malice or anger, but if we can actually see the power of Maya acting and not take offense, then we can start to get some clarity of the situation, and then we can see then we can see the opportunity that's also there. Right? If somebody attacks you, then the response is to attack back. But if we're very aware and if we know Maya is acting in this world on everyone, the modes of nature are moving through people, and they're like possessed by something in a sense. So then we don't overreact. I used to have this thing I used to try to do throughout the day. I would look for the opportunity to not get angry at people and situations. Looking for the opportunity to not get angry. Because, well, we might think, well, why don't you just look for the opportunity to love everyone? But love is not a personal emotion. Love is the Shakti of the Lord coming through us. True love is a power of Krishna's that moves through us when we're purified and when we're surrendered. So we can't just say, I'm going to decide to be loving all day. We can be kind. We can be, respectful. So I'd like to do a practice of just look for the opportunity to not get angry. Because if I'm very aware, I can see something comes up throughout my day, something that interferes with my plans, and then there's an urge to get angry. But if I'm looking for the opportunity for those moments, and just by doing that, I can remember, oh, wait, be patient for a moment. Here's an opportunity to not get angry, to still act with kindness, even though this is coming towards me right now. So, and then if we don't overreact like that, if we don't just react in the moment, usually whatever comes to us, we react in the same way. Someone comes and shouts at you, we shout back, or we get upset back. But if you don't react, then there's some clarity. And in that clarity, then we can see another opportunity that's there. So Vidura, he hears these harsh words. He's pained at first, but he also sees the power of Maya, and he's clear in his mind. And therefore, he also sees this is the grace of Duryodhana, because now I can go and purify myself completely. I'll take shelter of the association of devotees. It's good that I'm being thrown out of the palace. And so in that very nice verse, text 16, all of this is happening in his response. It teaches us how to respond to people, how to respond to life with patience. Patience is it's a great word, actually. You know what patience means? It's very interesting. Patience means to suffer. The word patient, like we have patients in the hospital, people who have an illness who are suffering. But the original meaning of the word is to suffer, to endure pain. And it's interesting. So we might think that means to endure the pain that others are causing me. But that's not what it means either. Patience means to endure your own urge to react with malice or to react with impatience. So to be patient means that I'm enduring my own urge to respond with malice. It's not being patient with the other person's faults. It's being patient with my fault to react with malice or with hate. So the word is this is a lot of words, they have spiritual origins, and we've lost those spiritual origins. That's why just to research, the original meaning of words gives us a deep understanding of life, and certain spiritual truths are embedded in words. That's why, Sanskrit is so powerful. You find the root meaning of each word. Prabhupada took so much pain to write all this transliteration of all the Sanskrit texts because the words are so loaded. But even in English, right? How many of us, I just found this out about the word patience. It's so profound. It means to endure your own tendency to be impatient or to react with hatred or malice, or to respond with force. Just be patient. Endure the pain of not reacting with hate. Let me go through that. Let me be patient. So anyway, Vidura, he has this, he sees clearly. He sees the opportunity that's actually been given to him. And it's amazing what happens. Therefore, we're talking about, he's seeing Maya acting through Duryodhana. He's seeing Maya. And in a purport coming up, I was reading further just to get a feel for this whole section. And Prabhupada says in a purport coming up that this is an amazing statement. This is what happens when we do this, when we're able to have this vision that Maya is acting through people. Let me not overreact, and let me see the opportunity. What's actually happening when you do that? So Prabhupada says, the energy of the Lord transforms from Mahamaya to Yogamaya and appears to pure devotees in her real original feature. Isn't that amazing? The energy of the Lord. The energy of the Lord. For a devotee who has this vision, it transforms from Mahamaya to Yogamaya. And Yogamaya is the original feature of that energy. So when we respond with patience, with understanding through the Shastra, understanding true knowledge that this is Maya acting, let me not be quick to take offense, but let me clear my mind, see what's right here. Let me see the opportunity here. You still deal with the situation in the moment. Somebody is harmful, and that should be dealt with directly. But the key is without malice, without hatred, without resentment. That's the art of it. And if you do that, you're actually there's a transformation taking place from Mahamaya to Yogamaya. And because as soon as you act with anger or hate, we're further separated from the Lord. Therefore, Maya is the power that separates you from the Lord. But if you truly see what's happening and you take it in the right way, taking shelter of the Lord for this ability, then whatever's coming towards you, Yogamaya, it's actually uniting you to the Lord even more. Yogamaya means the energy of union. You're becoming more united. And that is the original feature, Prabhupada says, of the energy of the Lord, the Shakti. Everything in this world is a reflection, is like a symbol of the original feature. Like we understand that who's in charge of this material world, Goddess Durga. Well, she's an expansion of Srimati Radharani. The original feature is Radharani. But then coming down into the material world, the material realm with all these laws, and there's an expansion of Durga Devi. But Radharani is the original Shakti of the Lord. And then there's another expansion that comes later in the form of Durga. So everything is like that. So here we're covered by Maya, Mahamaya, the illusory energy of the Lord. But in the original feature of that energy is Yogamaya. an energy that brings us closer and closer to the Lord. So in this purport also I was looking at, Prabhupada brings up a very interesting point. He says, he's saying, why didn't Vidura go directly to Krishna? He was thrown out of the palace. He could have directly approached Krishna. You know? Why did he instead go on pilgrimage? And Prabhupada very nicely explains the mindset of Vidura. Vidura considered himself unfit to directly approach Krishna. He's thinking, I'm not qualified to directly approach Krishna because of the association that I've had. Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, therefore, I'm not fit to see Krishna directly. I'll go take shelter of the holy dham, of the holy places. I'll go take shelter of the devotees of Krishna. I'll go take shelter of the deity form of Krishna. He approaches Krishna indirectly, which is more pleasing to Krishna actually, and it's getting you closer to Krishna. Even though we think, he could have directly approached Krishna. But that mood that I'll directly approach Krishna is not the heart of a devotee. It's not the mood of a devotee. The devotee goes further and further away, feeling themselves not qualified. And by going further and further away from Krishna, they're actually getting closer and closer to Krishna. So we want to serve Krishna. So what does that mean? Actually, we want to be the servant of 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 Krishna. Further and further away means you're getting closer and closer, more pleasing to the Lord. He appreciates that humble approach, that who are the devotees right in front of me right now? That's where my service to Krishna is. Servant of the servant of the servant. Prabhupada says in one lecture, the further back you go, servant, 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 then the more directly you are associating with Krishna. So it's a beautiful point because it makes it so practical for us. It really means in this life, those who are around me now who are trying to serve Krishna, that's where my service to Krishna is. That's where my access to Krishna is. I don't have to go to this other place and find these special people. It's right, those who are on that path of service to Krishna, by serving them nicely and associating from each other. That mindset of a devotee pleases Krishna. So Vidura is giving this example. Who's Vidura? He's the incarnation of Yamaraj. He is pure devotee, but he's thinking, I'm not qualified to see Krishna. I have to, it says in this verse, he's seeking a higher grade of piety by going to the holy places to purify himself. I need to be purified. And, interesting also, when we go to holy places, this is also highly recommended for us. Take shelter of the holy places. Go on pilgrimage. This is called Padasevana. The 9 items of devotional service. Sometimes you wonder, what is Padasevana? What is that item all about? It seems like deity worship. But deity worship's already there, right? Archa. The Archanam. So this Padasevanam, worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. And Prabhupada describes here and other places. This is referring to going to the holy places. This is Padasevana. The Lord's feet touch those places. The pure devotees' feet touch those places. I also go there with my feet. A pilgrimage to Vikram means to go around. So this is one of the meanings of Padasevana when we wonder what that item of devotional service actually means. It means going to holy places. and taking shelter there, hearing and chanting. Going to the holy places means going there to glorify the Lord and to take advantage of the devotees who are there. So this nice verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita is quoted, which also kind of tells us the three boons of going to a holy place. This is at the end of the purport. Sarvatra prakasha tanra bhakte sukhe dite jagatera adharmana shi dharma stapite. So these are like the three boons of going to the holy place. The Lord has so distributed himself all over the universe just to give pleasure to the devotees, to give the common man facility to eradicate his sins, and to establish religious principles in the world. So why these temples, these holy places are especially marked for us? Well, by going there, religious principles are established there. The common man, Prabhupada says, can eradicate his sins there. Right? This is what Vidura was thinking. I'm sinful because of my association. I'll go there and become pious. And then also for the devotees, these places give great pleasure to the devotees, and that's why they also exist. One more point in the purport wanted to mention. There's so much. There's so much Prabhupada gives in these purports, but he mentions that Krishna is, this is his mercy, that there are places we can go, there are temples, there are deities. This is the mercy of the Lord because we cannot perceive him with our present eyes. We cannot hear him with our present ears. Krishna is a doksaje, which means not perceivable, he is not seen by the common person. But we know this nice verse by Rupa Goswami, Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavet Krayam Indriyai, that we cannot see the Lord, we cannot really, with the ears, we can't hear the Lord, we can't hear the Lord's name, Nam, Adi. Adi means etc. So meaning the Nam cannot be heard, the form cannot be seen, the pastimes cannot be seen or understood. Adi, so all those things. Nam, Rupa, Guna, Lila. So then we're not capable of perceiving the Lord. So what do? Seva mukhe, when we start to develop the service attitude, when we start to cultivate and develop the service attitude, then the senses become purified. When the eyes are purified, the purified eyes can see Krishna. The purified ears can hear the name of Krishna. And this is coming from the service attitude that develops. And Krishna is so kind that even when that service attitude is not fully developed, or the senses are not fully purified, still he is showing himself in the form of the deity. He is giving opportunities for us, even with these eyes, that we can see. And seeing the deity is actually seeing Krishna, even though we may not have that experience or realization. But it comes as the eyes get purified, as the heart gets purified. Then the deity that we may be seeing daily, if we have deities, or one can actually directly experience Krishna through that. We haven't got to go somewhere else. But when there's the awakening of pure devotion, when there's the awakening of devotion, we'll see the deity is Krishna. Prabhupada's pointing that out in this purport. There's one personality in Gaur Lila, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. His name is Gauridas Pandit, and he had deities in his home of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. But this was also the time of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So they were pleased with him, of his devotion. So they directly came to his house for lunch. And they sat down with him. He was serving them so nicely. And after lunch, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda got up to leave. And Gauridas Pandit said, "No, please, you stay here with me. Please just stay with me. I cannot tolerate if you leave. I cannot bear the separation." And Lord Chaitanya said, "But we are here with you. We're right there on the altar." And he said, "No, I understand that. I understand. But those are the deities. I want you to stay. I want you to stay. I want both of you to stay. Those are my deities." And Lord Chaitanya said, "Okay, we'll stay." So Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda went up to the deities and they kind of froze their bodies, and the deities came to life. And then the deities went to leave the house. And he stopped them. He said, No, wait, no, you have to stay." He said, "No, he said, we're already here. We're right there on the altar." And Gauridas Pandit said, "No, but those are the deities. I want you in your alive, moving form to stay." And so they said, "Okay, we'll stay." So they again went back to the altar. Then they froze, and then the deities came alive, and they got up and they started leaving. And this happened 3, 4, or 5 times. And finally, Gauridas Pandit, he forgot who was who, which is the deities, which is Lord Chaitanya. He couldn't trace who was who anymore. And the reason for this pastime with Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were showing that there is no difference. The deities are there, and when the heart gets purified through service, then we can actually see that the deity all along this time, I've actually had the Lord in my house. I haven't had the realization, but imagine getting that realization and realizing all this time you've been watched over. The Lord has been there. He's just waiting for the devotion to awaken and revealing himself. So it's a nice pastime just to show that there is no difference. There is no difference between the deity and Krishna himself. It just requires a purification takes place within us. That purification also takes place by the mercy of the Lord. When we surrender, when we have the commitment that our lives should be fully surrendered, we move more and more in that direction. We hear and chant in the association of devotees. And we go deeper and deeper into this full surrender to the Lord. And that power is also it's all coming from the Lord. So sometimes we get depressed because we think, how will I ever do that? But it's not us doing that. It's Krishna doing it through us by seeing the persistent sincerity in service and taking shelter of the process that's been given by Srila Prabhupada, that connection to Prabhupada, the link to a pure devotee. That's our hope. And if we follow, nicely serve, then Krishna gives us strength, gives us knowledge, gives us insight. And we start to move closer to that surrender, that desire that's already within us to actually surrender completely, to return to the Lord. So this is a nice section here with Vidura. He's such an example. And we can see his very humble approach, right? He feels sinful and contaminated from his association, even though he's so advanced. And he's thrown out of the palace, but he sees it as grace. He sees an opportunity because of his wisdom and his purity. He sees the opportunity that Krishna is providing. He goes on pilgrimage all over for many years, for over 30 years. Vidura went on pilgrimage. He meets with Maitreya Muni, he meets with Uddhava, and there are conversations that are coming that we'll hear the topics and those conversations. But his humility and his traveling in this way and taking shelter of the holy places. That's what these verses are about here. So I will stop here, and happy if you have any comments or reflections or questions. Hare Krishna.
Mrs. Loha raising your hand.
Hi, Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to unmute myself by raising my hand. Wow, thank you for your class. I really enjoyed it. I feel inspired by the story of Vidura. And hold on, let me just stop. I was walking. Yeah, there's lots of little gems from all that you shared for me. And what stood out, the first thing that stood out, like what you shared about patience, that was really touching for me, and really resonated. Enduring, like, and tolerating our I forget the word you said, but like, yeah, our own stuff that's coming up, and like, instead of creating more suffering on top of the suffering, to learn how to endure that. And then the other thing I really was appreciating was the example of where you spoke about Mahamaya and being able to see that as Yoga Maya. And like, it's not a brand new concept to me, but the way that you spoke about it was good to hear it. And I hope I can continue seeing it that way. And yeah, like Vidura, like he's able to see that opportunity. I'm inspired by that. He was able to see the opportunity that was there by him being thrown out. And you also spoke about serving, and I'm pretty still new to a lot of all of this, and I guess it was good to hear that. And I guess at first I was like, I'm still like, oh, why are we serving the devotees? Like, why not like Krishna? So hearing it in the way you were talking about it I understood it in a new way. And I look forward to opportunities to do that, although I feel feel like I'm looking for opportunities to learn and be served. So that's something to aspire to. And I have a question around that, but I'll come back because there's one other piece at the end. I don't remember the other piece. So the question was like, what about, right, like, okay, serving devotees, but like in some ways, not everyone's a devotee, but in some ways, everyone is a devotee. Maybe that's not right. But the question is like, what about serving people, serving in whatever way we can, and then trusting that the people who are attracted to that, or who are ready to receive Krishna or the Maha Mantra, and maybe it then sparks the seed of being a devotee that's already within them. I'm curious about that because, like, I don't know, that's kind of more where I'm at. If I'm like sharing with some people or friends who maybe not on this path at all, and maybe they're curious, or I'm wondering if you could speak into that in some way. That's kind of where I'm at with questioning that. But otherwise, thank you so much. I really enjoyed your class, and it was just really, really nice to hear it. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for all your reflections and all the points that you highlighted. I really just appreciated hearing them again myself. It's like you give a class and kind of like, but I could see you heard very carefully, and appreciate you bringing those points back up of patience and service. So it's a good question. You say that we start to understand and we learn from some of the acharyas, the teachers, of how to serve different people in different ways. It's not maybe the exact same form for every situation, for every person. Just like when someone is against what we're all about or against what we're doing, we don't want to impose our will on them, that they become devotees somehow and just become kind of preachy or something like that, and can try to force something. That usually says something more about something that's going on with us, if we feel like we have to force somebody to take something. But obviously we want to give and we want to share. If we're experiencing something special, if we're getting some deeper understanding of life and how to live, we want to share that. And we can share that by simply being in the mood of service, in this consciousness or mood of how can I serve this person, Krishna? And maybe it doesn't mean like, even for people who are not devotees, but let's say they're good people in our lives who are just there, and family or whatever it may be, and we can also enter into the looking for the opportunity to serve. And that can take so many forms. It can also just be, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it may be. But if we bring that mood of service, then that can inspire a person. Maybe they don't even understand what's happening. There's this famous saint in the Catholic tradition, Saint Therese, I believe her name was. And she was a young girl and she wanted to be a nun when she was like 14 or 15 years old. She was from France. And her parents didn't want that to happen. Most parents want their children to get married and have families. And so they didn't want to allow for it. But her response was, well, I'm going to try and treat my mother and father. I'm going to treat my father as if he's Jesus. I'm going to serve my father like he's Jesus, and I'm going to serve my mother like she's Mother Mary. And without telling them this, but I'm just going to see them in that light and just be, simple, obedient, humble, respectful to them. And she just entered into this mood of, she was conscious of God, conscious of Jesus, and trying to please and serve in that way. And they came to the realization, these two parents, imagine if, their daughter is with such respect and such love, they came to their own realization that our daughter is like a saint. We should allow her to go wherever she wants. If she wants to become a nun, the energy was coming across to them. And when we're actually Krishna conscious, when we're thinking of Krishna and how to serve Krishna, where's the opportunity here to serve this person? They may not even be a devotee, but let me look for it. Show it to me how I can best serve. And then we're giving Krishna by example, by the energy that we're carrying. We're giving Krishna to another person. But we're also given lots of instructions. Like if somebody is against this, if somebody is offensive, you should serve them by avoiding them. That's also service. And then when people are on the same path as us, we should serve them with love, with devotion. We can directly speak about Krishna. We can inspire each other. We can hear and chant together. We can share our realizations. This is how you serve the devotees. This is benefiting. And then our service to Krishna. So service, we look at who it is and the situation, and sometimes adjustments. And it may take different forms. And so we can learn these things from the scriptures of it. There's a Rupa Goswami explains, also how to serve different people in different situations, what that means. So anyway, just some thoughts from that, but it's a great question and a good topic. Thank you.
Hi, Krishna. Thank you.
I saw that Casey had her hand up previously.
Yes.
I did, but Laura actually said everything I was going to say.
Okay.
I appreciated the point on patience, and there was another point that I really liked too. Oh yeah, seeing being cast out of the castle as as like grace, and maybe even seeing Duryodhana as like his well-wisher ultimately.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Yeah, Duryodhana may not have known it. He was just being harsh and rude and wicked, but the devotee is able to see something else is happening here. Some other opportunity is here. Maya is working through this person, but ultimately that Maya in the original feature, as Prabhupada says, is Yoga Maya. The original form of that illusory energy is the energy that helps me unite to the Lord. So, we can, in our stage, we can think about it and reflect on it and try to see it. But there's also a stage where you immediately see it. It's your vision. You're seeing Krishna's hand is in everything. Krishna's loving hand is just drawing me near in every situation. That's how a pure devotee starts to see life, see reality. And then just imagine you're just on that steady road. Everything is bringing you closer to the Lord.
it's really sweet to hear. Thank you. Great class.
Thank you. Thank you. Vijendra Prabhu, your hand.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry about the lighting. I guess I'm in the witness protection program, but I just really want to express, on a personal level, my appreciation. I just immediately just connect very well to your expressions, what you communicate, how you communicate it. It's just very pleasing and exciting, really. I wanted also to talk a little bit more, if you would please, about Maya. I'm pondering it, so this is kind of an inquiry for clarity of your understanding. So for a long time, I've considered, okay, there's sort of Maya, which I just sort of generally could in just one word say, oh, well, Maya is illusion. That's what the word means. Maya means illusion. And from there, I understand, oh, well, there's Yoga Maya and there's the Maha Maya of the material world. There's the Yoga Maya of the spiritual world and spiritual consciousness, and the Maha Maya of the material world of ignorance. So they, in that sense, okay, well, they have in common, there's illusion. So what is an example of the Yoga Maya? Well, Mother Yashoda is thinking, Krishna's my little baby boy. If I don't feed him, he's gonna die. And she's doing this with great love, and this idea that Krishna is some little boy and not the Supreme Personality of Godhead is facilitating this greater mood of giving of herself to take care of him. This illusion is, or ignorance, say, of his position as the Supreme Lord is necessary for this experience as his mother. So I really, really appreciate that. And on the other hand, the Mahamaya of I am this body in the material world, or I'm the owner and controller, and the suffering that comes from that seems at best in an experience that indirectly is sort of causing a negative experience of being separated from Krishna, of being separated from Krishna's love. So those are my views about Maya and differentiation between Mahamaya and Yogamaya. So what I'm wanting to ask, sort of inquire of you, is the way I heard it, if I understood it, is you were expressing it's at its roots, Maya is the same, that the energies are not as much distinct, but maybe as that one energy comes into this world, it perverts or transforms, but at its root, it's the same. Was I getting that properly?
Yes, in a sense, it's one of those things, right? That we we always respond to these questions. Well, same and different, right? This achintya beta beta tattva. So this also applies for this, because all the energy of the energy of the Lord, all it does is bring you more near to the Lord. But when a person turns against that, then it brings him more near to the Lord by suffering. But that also brings you nearer to the Lord, because eventually it brings you to the point where you have to kind of fall down on your knees and just beg for mercy if the suffering becomes profound enough. So in a sense, it's also even the material realm with Maya and the illusion, it's leading to Krishna, even when we go against Krishna, in a sense.
Yeah.
Finally, once we realize that and try to surrender.
Yeah, that's what I meant by saying it's indirectly when I use the word indirect. If it's okay, I'd still like to inquire, and maybe I won't get it right now. Maybe I'll ponder more. I really appreciate what you just said about sort of just tying into that, Chinchya beta beta tattva, and maybe that's just where I need to sort of stay with it. But it does carry on just in sort of general about what is the continuum from the material, from the spiritual to material world. What is the continuum from Yoga Maya to Mahamaya? And is it the same? And to some extent, is it just sort of like our point of view? Like the point of view Vidura could take in leaving the palace. Is it that sort of, kind of relating to quantum uncertainty on a spiritual level, even like my point of view determines it. It's not, it's just what it is. And I'm creating that distinction between material or spiritual or Mahamaya and Yogamaya.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing for our minds to grasp, because we have, our minds are by nature, the material mind is dualistic. So it's always, is it this or is it that, right? And we see things on a spiritual level, as the consciousness begins to elevate, things unify in a very mysterious way, and it's simultaneously something different and also one, and it can only be experienced, and from our level we can try to understand it a little bit, and that has helped me also to kind of understand some of the principles. But the real experience, we hear pure devotees in this material world, they're really seeing Krishna. They're seeing Shyam Sundar everywhere. They're seeing his hand in everything to draw them more near. There was a story of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, and little children were, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji was he was avadut, which means like, he'd keep himself, he would just chant in maybe even some dirty place so that people wouldn't bother him. He just wanted to chant, be absorbed, and forget this whole material world and just get absorbed in Krishna. And so there's a little story of these little kids who were following him, and they were making fun of him and they were throwing rocks at him. He was this great soul, just walking somewhere alone, and these little kids, look at this old man, he looks crazy, he's hitting him with rocks. And then he turned to these little boys and he said, who has told you to throw these rocks? Has Krishna put you up to this? I know Krishna has put you up to this. You bring Krishna here now, and I will chastise him for doing this. You know, these little boys are, this man is crazy, you know? But somehow it's like, even in the material world, his vision, now, was it actually true or not? You know, is Krishna, it's like, this is an experience he's experiencing, and his love is making it a reality. And perhaps it is the deepest reality, but this was his experience being shared. And, you know, so we have stories like that. And Prabhupada says, you know, the material, he says in one place that what is matter? Matter is just spirit that becomes condensed. You know, in a sense, everything is spiritual. And then you have different vibrations. So when the vibration becomes more slow, we call it matter. When the vibration is very fast, so fast that it's infinite, it's actually spirit. That's another way of just seeing that we're actually, everything is spiritual, everything is the creation of God. And there is a sense in which when we start to elevate, we see what's more true, what's more real. And that's more of the world of God and the real purpose of everything. Anyway, just some thought. I don't know if that helped, but just some thoughts.
Prabhu, no, thank you very much. Thank you for entertaining my pondering. It's all just, I mean, the bottom line is it's just, everything you say is just very pleasing and illuminating, and I appreciate it. Whether I understand it as well as I do, I just know that it's good. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your encouragement. Dear Govinda Prabhu, did you have something? Please.
Hare Krishna, I appreciated all of your class with, as Laura indicated, many gems, and this discussion moved by. And I'm thinking, like, there's the verse, you know, in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Devyesha gunamaya mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapajante mayam etam tarantite. So Krishna says that the material energy, that the Mahamaya, it's very difficult to overcome, but one who surrenders to me can easily cross beyond it. Okay, so he's talking about the Mahamaya, the material energy. At the same time, Devyesha Gunamaya, it's divine. It's translated as so it's like, well, that's material, but this divine energy. So it's spiritual. Well, is it material or spiritual? And so just in this conversation, that verse comes to mind. So it's a matter of perspective from Krishna's point of view, from Vidura's point of view. It's spiritual. And from our point of view, you know, we can aspire to that viewpoint of Vidura and Prabhupada and Krishna. And at the same time, like Prabhupada would say that, his greatest anxiety is that his followers are not scared enough of Maya. So like, we want to, you know, like, in my current consciousness, I'm very susceptible to be taken away by Krishna. So let me see this as Maya. I mean, Prabhupada gives the analogy sometimes of like, electricity is one. And certainly for the director of the electric power plant, it's one. But electricity flowing through the wiring of a refrigerator manifests as cold, and the same electricity manifesting through the wiring of a heater manifests as heat. So you know, those are just some verses and thoughts I wanted to share.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, it's definitely good, important for us to remember that just how powerful the illusory energy is, and to begin to see it acting everywhere, you know, to really see it within ourselves, within the world, how people are, you know, it's like we surrendered to Maya long ago. We surrendered, and now Maya is just moving through people, moving through me. It wants me to react with hatred or with resentment, but to catch ourselves. Oh, this is Maya acting through me. This is not the true me. Let me see if I can let go of that for now, and then reconnect myself to the Lord, take shelter of the Lord. Appreciate you bringing that back to just how real and serious it actually is also for us. And
Yeah, and your point, I appreciated your response to Laura about association and like, yes, serving devotees. And so we could say like Srila Prabhupada, okay, he was in a village, it's all devotees, Vrindavan. And then he went to where there's no devotees to serve. There's no devotees to serve. But he didn't see it that way. He like as Laura said, like he was seeing like, oh, the 13 million residents of metropolitan New York, they're all devotees. Let me serve them. And you told some wonderful stories in that regard about the 14-year-old saintly nun there. And yeah, so let me serve. And then naturally by that mood, because of that mood, here we are in Florida and Europe, and we're talking about Vidur and Bhagavatam because Prabhupada saw everyone as a devotee, and his service was to help them remember. So we want to follow that without imitating it. It's like to follow the principle, just as you so nicely explained, is for us, it's important to make distinctions. Like there are some who are like alive in remembrance actively and conceptually of who they are as servants of Prabhupada's mission. And so, okay, yeah, so let me really hear from them and serve them. And sure, we also want to serve those who, they apparently are not in remembrance, but the service takes a different form and there's different boundaries and like that. Thank you. Thanks for your class.
thank you. Anyone else? Anything else? Nandini, Devi, and also Mother Moni. I saw your hand just go.
Malini can go first.
Well, I wanted to say the same to you, Anandini, so you can go.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Well, I feel very encouraged by your class and so many points you made that I feel like strengthened in my endeavor to serve, encouraged, inspired. And also you responded to some question I had for many years. What does Pada Sevana mean? And you gave a response that really inspired me about pilgrimage. That's what I understood. And there's something I want to share. Like I came to Krishna consciousness through friends who brought me to Sattvatov, to Dira Govinda and Malini, and I have never been to India. So all my Krishna consciousness, it's through association and through Srila Prabhupada's books. And also my husband, and he recently in December, he went to Sri Mayapur on pilgrimage. And he came back and he brought back some items. One item like a small twig from a tree that Lord Chaitanya hugged, and it started to blossom. And when he gave this item to me, it was such a beautiful experience of like having something to touch with my hands that I read about in books, and it just brought it all home to me that Lord Chaitanya is real, and that the chanting is real, and this is about God and God consciousness, and increased my my faith like a million times. And I was reminded by that while you were speaking. I never gave much importance to pilgrimage, and this experience in hearing you speak, I just feel enriched. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's there is, Rupa Goswami says that there are 5 items of devotional service that can awaken bhava, spiritual emotion, even in the beginner, even in the neophyte devotee. And one of them is going to the holy places, going to the holy dham. There's a real power there. It's just imagine. I remember first time, like you said, I was going into Mayapur for the first time, and then just seeing in the distance some temples of Lord Chaitanya, different Gaudiya mats, and seeing him, and then feeling the presence of Lord Chaitanya in a way I'd never had before, and then meeting a few people who have been serving him their whole lives, I met this little Bengali pujari who spoke a little English, and he was sharing about Lord Chaitanya. He was born in a family of devotees of Lord Chaitanya, and just sitting there at this old temple, the deity of Lord Chaitanya, it was like awakening, like the reality of it all. And I was so overwhelmed by it. And I took that with me, that's there in my heart for the rest of my life. And there is a real great value in going to the holy places in a spirit of service. And that's the key. If you go there thinking, I'm going here, how can I serve here? And what's that going to look like? What form is that going to take? But staying open that I'm not just going as a tourist, but I want to look for an opportunity to serve. And with that consciousness in the holy place, in a holy environment, amazing realizations and experiences will come. So Rupa Goswami explains that this bhava, that even spiritual emotion, even in our state, can awaken through going, through the name, through the deities, through the holy place, through associating with devotees, and through hearing Bhagavatam. Those are five, he calls them the five most potent forms of devotional service. So those five can awaken love, real love for the Lord, even in a beginning devotee practitioner. So it's nice that you had that experience. Maybe that's inspiring you to also go. And it's good to have that longing and that aspiration and inspiration to go to the holy place and take shelter there and see what Krishna, how he reciprocates with that. That's a nice desire to have. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it does awaken a desire, and at the same time, I get that, what I'm getting through Srila Prabhupada's books is also very, very potent.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's all there. It's there. It's just the sound vibration of Prabhupada. I was hearing recently that when a pure devotee speaks, everything is actually in a sound vibration, whatever they're saying. It's a kind of mystical point, I believe, but it's kind of like, because there's love for God, actual love for God, then the sound vibration carries that love. And that's what Prabhupada would sometimes say. If you just read one line of Krishna book, if you just read this one line, you'll become a devotee of Krishna. If you just hear this one thing, if you just understand this one, even, sometimes he would say this one word, if you just understand this one, if you just hear this one word, you will develop your love for Krishna. How's that possible? Because the pure devotee, being in love with God, their vibration carries that love. And if we're somehow receptive to it, then it awakens our love for God as well. And everything is in that love of God. So in a sense, there's no need of going here or there. But we also like to take advantages of opportunities. And there's a special mercy in the Holy Dham. And we can go to the Holy Dham and also have Prabhupada's books and read from there in a special place. And in that way, we combine these two powerful items together. And that's also beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Malini Devi, please share something with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Always thank you. Maybe it's too late, but I really appreciated your point about researching the source of the word patience. And it stimulated me a lot to think of not only Sanskrit's roots. It's like the language is meant to fulfill the purpose of human lives. And there is only one purpose for human lives. There is no two, there is only one. and to think that English also could be aligned with the Sanskrit in that way, that origin of English and maybe other Western language, if we really dig, we see that purpose of the human life to develop in a spiritual way. And, my mom is 89, and she also sometimes speak about words like in French, that means like looking inside, doing your work inside. And, like it's lost, it's completely lost. And in her generation, when she was growing up, there was still enough religious, spiritual education that was part of the system that she absorbed some of that. And so to imagine patients coming to support self-realization, to support a religion, and yes, just a few generations away, it was unthinkable of people not believing in God or people not having God in the center in some way or another of their life, and how things have devolved so quickly. And then I was attaching with when you were describing Yoga Maya and Mahamaya, and you were describing what I would translate as the density, like the more away from Krishna and spiritual vibration you are, the more dense material become, like the material energy becomes, like so much so that someone is spiritual, like there is past time where Prabhupada doesn't touch the ground because it's not under gravity. There's not that density. And I was thinking like, okay, the density, and then the point about duality and binary, and how much our world, like the technological world that we are all experiencing, is really, if we are spiritual, as damaging. But if we are not seeing with spiritual eyes, as of course everything can be used in the service of Krishna, any density, and how binary it is. Like a computer is binary. It doesn't know anything else but 1 and 0. 1 and 0, and 1 and 0. And the whole life of humanity right now, as we know it, is led by that density of a binary world that is leading the world. So I was just putting all those points together, and it was quite fascinating to hear your class.
Thank you. So many nice points you made. Yeah, that's the trick of Maya. Maya wants us to choose this. There's duality in everything, and Maya wants to choose this side or that side. And if we choose strongly, if we stay strongly on this side, we actually invoke the opposite. And those who are on the other side, by them choosing that, they're invoking the opposite. And then this alternates constantly. The dualities are always alternating. Good, now this is bad. Now this is good, now this is bad. This is right, now this is wrong, and this is right. Heat and cold, they always shifting. So if you strongly identify with one, you actually invoke the other. And this game is going on eternally until someone says, is there anything beyond duality? What is the absolute truth? What is above this duality? So the Gita is always giving these two dualities: happiness, distress, joy, sorrow, heat, cold, love, hate, attachment, aversion. And we get into one side or the other. And you can't, because it's always moving and perpetuating and alternating. You're just stuck there. And that's why people stay in material consciousness forever if they don't finally question, is there anything beyond this duality? Is there some other opportunity? Is there a third thing? I only see two things. Is there a third thing? And then the pure devotee comes and is giving that message that there is something else besides just this back and forth of the dualities. So it's a trick of Maya, and then we fight on one side or the other, and then we just, we perpetuate it by our identification with one side or the other. And until you rise above it, you rise above it in consciousness, and then you can look down and see that, oh, this is a game of back and forth. I actually have to come to a higher level of consciousness, which is above this fighting duality. And that's happening in our mind, in the world, and other people. so much of the Gita is encouraging us to rise above the dualities by the process of bhakti. Damayanti Devi, Haribo, you had a commenter.
Just a quick note, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm glad I jumped in a little late, but I'm glad I came to be with you all. I keep having the realization over and over again, like I just want to do Krishna consciousness to solve problems. and I'm expressing it to my husband, and him and I, we do have these conflicts that come up, and well, I've been experimenting of just letting them go, but now I'm kind of wanting to like just transform and like just be Krishna conscious. And he's starting to agree with me because I'm talking about it philosophically as I'm like going through like, yeah, we're having like just conflicts, or like the way he says something, or I get react, or something comes up. And one moment, I'm going to speak. My children's coming for a question. But anyway, he agrees with me that we could just forget about like trying to get satisfaction out of the marriage, or like he could be more like this, and I could learn this, bring the skill to our marriage, and we could improve the marriage. Like who cares? Like, let's I'm starting to think like, let's just focus, like keep refocusing on serving Prabhupada and serving Krishna. And he agrees, like, yeah, what's the point of like trying to perfect this marriage or perfect the personal growth and how we, like get some sort of satisfaction out of the marriage. And anyway, this morning he agreed with me that it was a good idea, and I feel excited. Like we don't have to, we'll probably have less conflict. We'll probably have less conflict, more closeness, just because we recenter on like, what are we going to do to serve Srila Prabhupada, and just keep going there. So I thought I'd share. It feels like rising above duality. That's all.
Yeah, from my point of view, I go back and forth with those two things a lot as well, where it's like the desire to rise above the duality, and that is our process. And then also, and I could come back into the duality and try to work things out in the best possible way, but not believing that that's the solution. I think that's the key. We have to work on things on the material level, but we shouldn't be fooled in thinking that the real solution to it all is on the material level. So even like with marriage or something like that, it's like, okay, let's work it out, let's communicate clearly, but let's not think that our intelligence to figure this all out is actually going to make this a truly loving relationship, in a pure relationship. It's only by connecting to the pure energy can our relationship become pure. The divine energy can our relationship become divine, in the sense of real service and real helping each other towards that return to Krishna. So we work things out on the material level the best we can. We make, like Prabhupada says, the best use of a bad bargain. So you try, to do what you can, but see, the problem with other people who haven't been blessed by this knowledge of a pure devotee is that they're believing that they can perfect things on the material level. And that's what brings the greatest pain, because they think the solutions are all down here. They think the solutions, it can become perfect. We have to work harder. We have to perfect ourselves. And just imagine, it's the false ego trying to perfect itself. The false ego is always the false ego. It's like trying to pull yourself out of a swamp by picking up your legs, or you're standing on a plank and you're trying to, get out by picking up the plank. You can't do it. It's the false ego is the starting point. But there's a way of rising above the false ego, not identifying with the false ego, and beginning to identify with the servant. I'm the servant of God. That's the real identification, and it's a shift. So, yeah, I appreciate what you shared. It's true that like from our minds and intelligence and our plans and our schemes, we're not going to like perfect our relationships. We want to bring Krishna into it and have that trust that if we both sincerely turn to Krishna and serve in a nice way, then that will carry into our relationship, and then we'll start to see a new harmony that's also possible from that connection with Krishna. So, thank you for sharing. I'm always doing that too, though, going back and forth and we kind of have to do that, right? It's like figuring things out best we can. but not being fooled that that's where the answer is. We know where the answer is. The answer is in the ultimate shelter, Krishna. Thank you. Well, it is 9:30. I'm sorry if I've gone over, so far over. I have to, I think, run at this point to work.
9:30 is a
Grateful to be
wonderful.
with all of you. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Very
great
good.
day.
So much, Ghanashyam Prabhu. It was so
Hare Krishna.
stimulating and enlivening. Hare Krishna.
Very
Thank
good.
you. Grateful for the opportunity.